Good morning. I want to start off by thanking Ben Fagan for organizing this wonderful roundtable that will allow me and my co-roundtable participants the opportunity to discuss our digital approaches to American periodicals. I also want to particularly thank Ben for allowing me to give my remarks remotely. I had every intention of being there with you this morning, but my daughter has taken ill and it's impossible for me to travel and to be there with you. So thank you to Ben and my other roundtable participants as well as the audience. This morning I want to talk about my approaches, my digital approaches to American periodicals. I specifically work on Black American periodicals, the Black press of the early 20th century. I also do some work on early 20th century magazines. So my remarks this morning really will be in the context of those types of periodicals. Now, 21st century technology has offered scholars who are interested in knowing more about modern periodicals digital tools to ask new and different questions. And in this sense, much has been written about textual analysis, text mining, and this concept of distant reading that Franco Moretti has been famous for coining. According to Moretti, distant reading is not literal, but it's a condition of a knowledge that allows scholars to break down large amount of text to much more manageable pieces of information, to analyze and to see patterns in data and in large textual data sets. Now, while these techniques certainly have their merit, textual analysis does not always capture popular periodicals as composite texts that include more than just text and writing. Textual analysis tells us very little about images in periodicals and the covers, for example, of magazines. Yet modern popular periodicals largely relied on visual images to attract and connect with readers, to construct a popular and a modern American culture. Indeed, we might argue that the visual image was at the heart of modernism, and many people argue that. And this is all the more important when we consider how much 20th century periodicals relied on visual culture to tell stories, inform, and entertain their readers. In this regard, modern periodicals, magazines, and newspapers, if you will, particularly Black ones, may be more conducive to digital tools that allow scholars to engage in a praxis of visual analytics. And digital tools, quite frankly, that can best help scholars to conduct what Robert Scholes and Clifford Wolfman call a semiotic reading of periodicals, where the constellation of text and images come together for a composite analysis. How then might digital tools help us deepen our analysis and understanding of images found in popular periodicals? This question is of a particular importance, I would argue, when we consider the ways that African American intellectuals and cultural producers have relied on the image and politicize it in an effort to challenge the stereotypes and the degrading images that were used to question and to think of African Americans as not having full humanity. We can also think about African American intellectual and cultural producers and the way they use the image to advocate for the rights, African American civil and social rights. So thinking about the images in and on magazines inspired me to look for a digital tool that would allow me to critically analyze images in Black periodicals. Now, I do work on gender and sexuality in the early 20th century in the context of Black periodicals. And so I had a set of 36 magazine covers, the images of 36 magazine covers from Abbott's Monthly, a Black periodical, a popular periodical in the early part of the 20th century. The magazine only ran from 1930 to 1933. And I wanted to analyze the images on this magazine in such a way that would allow me to get at some of the nuances of what it meant to publish a magazine during this time period. Now, Ben will show you these images, but when you look at them, on first glance, you can see that they challenge the stereotypes that African American women were considered to be mannish, ugly, and less than human. These Images, I argue, create a popular form of the new Negro woman, which made it clear that African American women were beautiful, refined, and desirable. Yet the women on the first 19 covers of Abbott's Monthly reflect a new Negro woman, not simply because they challenge these stereotypes and not simply because they're published by African Americans, but I would argue because they reflect the diversity of Black women, everyday Black women, in their range of skin colors and the settings that you see Black women positioned in. So these 36 magazine covers, and I'll talk about the other remaining covers in a second. While these 36 covers are an incredibly small data set, I wanted a tool that would allow me to think about this small collection as a composite text, if you will, that could be used in the context of the magazine, what the magazine is publishing, and the larger sort of economic factors that created a desire for more circulation among African American editors and publishers. And I discovered ImagePlot, which is an open access software tool that visualizes collections of images or videos. ImagePlot was developed by Lev Manovich at the Software Studies Initiative, and it's supported by the NEH and several other organizations. Now, what ImagePlot allows you to do, it allows you to scale images to any size and organize them in any order according to their dates, content, and visual characteristics. And I use ImagePlot to create a scatter plot of the images of the magazine covers based on the date, publication, and brightness of color on the magazines. Now, Ben will also show you the scatter plot and the visualization. And when you see the visualization, you will see the magazines, visualized in terms of a change over time from 1930 to 1933. Now, the curve or the plot change in the plot points occurs right at 1932 when you look at the visualization. And what ImagePlot allows us to see is that when Abbott's Monthly changes their magazine covers from just images of everyday women, nameless women, if you will, and begin to feature female performers on the covers of the magazines, the images generally become brighter. The magazine covers become brighter, right? Images of the female performers symbolize increasing commercialization of the modern era, as well as the rise in celebrity culture among African Americans. But what I think this visualization also shows us is that the complexions of the women on the magazine covers become lighter as well, right? Reflecting the color politics in American culture and in Black American culture, where lighter skin was privilege, and lighter skin was considered more desirable and more attractive, right? And these magazine covers show us that Black female performers were valuable marketing currency. They are being used, I would argue, to increase circulation that is desperately needed in the Great Depression, right, because of the financial economic limitations of that particular moment, but also increase in circulation because of African American magazine publishers and editors' inability to rely on advertisers, right, as a form of revenue, making circulation solely and largely the revenue base for many periodicals in the early 20th century. So what you see is that these new magazines also corresponded with other changes in the magazine, which include the use of cheaper paper, the introduction of a new features section on household management, among other new columns and major promotion in the Chicago Defender. Unfortunately, the magazine is unable to survive and ends in 1933. Archival records of Abbott's Monthly simply don't exist. So I use ImagePlot and analyze these publication covers as another way to gain insight into the multifaceted significance and function of images in Black periodicals, and the way that these images are simultaneously used to challenge stereotypes and present African Americans in an attractive light, but they are also used to obviously increase circulation and the color politics, quite frankly, and the rise of celebrity culture, and how these factors are also part of the increase or effort to increase circulation. Thus, image plot in tandem with other documents allow us to see the cultural analysis of images in Black periodicals is far from simple and has a multi-range of aspects that go into how we might think about the function and role of images. Digital approaches allow us to see that images are deeply inflected and nuanced by the intersectional politics of race, class, gender, and economics. So I want to stop here. I will say thank you again to Ben for allowing me to present my remarks remotely. Thank you to the other roundtable participants. Thank you to the audience. And if you have any questions or comments about my presentation, please feel free to email me at kgallen@purdue.edu. You can also tweet me at Black Digital Humanities on Twitter. Thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful conference. Bye.